As we near 1 week since the fall of Afghanistan to the Taliban, tens of thousands of Americans and Afghan allies are still trapped in the country. The scenes of chaos and desperation there bore little resemblance to the tone of President Biden today, who finally took a whopping 4 prearranged questions from the White House press corps, flanked by Kamala Harris and Secretary Blinken wearing their black masks, of course. The responses were not exactly reassuring.
And we're working on a variety to verify that number of the Americans are still in country as we work on this, because don't have the exact number of people who are Americans are there.
Now, I have to admit, that was a little bit better than this.
But we've all seen the pictures. We've seen those hundreds of people packed into a C-17. We've seen Afghans falling.
That was 4 days ago, 5 days ago.
But like I said, not much. Now, when the president was asked by NPR of all outlets to explain why we didn't hold on to Bagram Air Base, for instance, or plan for contingencies to protect our personnel before we pulled out our forces, he characteristically ended the press conference and he walked away. You see, folks, this is what happens when our government focuses on COVID politics, mask fights, and a radical social agenda to justify massive domestic spending. The rest of the world kind of becomes an afterthought.
Exactly how many, I don't have firm numbers on.
We're just not in a position to give a number right now.
I can see if there's a greater assessment. I would point you to the State Department on that, though. They'd have the most up-to-date numbers.
We don't have the capability to go out and collect up large numbers of people, Barb.
Even our military has become more focused on mask politics and critical race theory than trying to ensure that we didn't have a human calamity on our hands in Afghanistan. You know, when you focus on playing the COVID game and you tool around looking like this, you end up sounding like this.
So it sounds like you're saying this depends on diplomacy with the Taliban. That's it. That's our only option, is getting them to agree to do this.
Well, let me add something here, Helene.
Now over at the State Department, as it turns out, it wasn't all unicorns and rainbows in July, as the president has suggested. The Wall Street Journal reported today that an internal State Department cable had warned of a Kabul collapse. Now that's right. 23 U.S. Embassy staffers in Kabul signed on to what is called a dissent cable, which was promptly reviewed by the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken. When Joe Biden says they didn't know that the Taliban could advance so quickly, that's just not true. We now know that there was significant dissent among generals, the intelligence community, and from our diplomats, questioning Biden's decision to ditch the Afghan mission in a manner that should call into question his fitness to serve as commander-in-chief. Today, again, in shameful fashion, he does what he always seems to do when his back is up against the wall. He trots out the name of his son, Beau, rest his soul, to suggest that staying in Afghanistan would have required a massive force to maintain the status quo. No, Mr. President, it required the will to stand up to the Taliban. Instead, now we're begging them not to kill our people.
What interest do we have in Afghanistan at this point with al-Qaeda gone? We went to Afghanistan for the express purpose of getting rid of al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, as well as getting Osama bin Laden. And we did.
Now, of course, he was against the bin Laden raid, but we'll talk about that perhaps later. Obama didn't get it when it came to Iraq. He turned the country over to ISIS, the JV team, the Iranians, and the Russians. Biden doesn't get it when it comes to Afghanistan. Holding Afghanistan was a strategic decision that had implications far beyond al-Qaeda. There are more than a dozen, terror groups that are operating in that part of the world. And we don't want Afghanistan to be returned to a hotbed for their operations. And just as he says that saying al-Qaeda isn't there so we don't have to be there anymore, he then turns around and he says this.
We're also keeping a close watch on any potential terrorist threat at or around the airport, including from the ISIS affiliates in Afghanistan who were released from prison when the prisons were emptied.
That's right, folks. They emptied the prisons, and oh, they also have an Air Force now, too. President didn't talk too much about that today. Afghanistan war veteran and Congressman Brian Mast, who lost both legs during the war, he gets it. He said this.
We just created the new terrorist training ground, the new terrorist jihadist Club Med of Afghanistan for anybody that wants to come in. It's going to be controlled by the Taliban.
And here's another senior moment from President Biden today.
I have seen no question of our credibility from our allies around the world. I've spoken with our NATO allies. As a matter of fact, the exact opposite I've gotten.
Now, in fairness, maybe nobody has told him that our allies are just a little unhappy. From the Daily Telegraph in the UK, Parliament holds the president in contempt. That was on the front page. From Politico, quote, disbelief and betrayal. Europe reacts to Biden's Afghanistan miscalculation. German Chancellor Angela Merkel said, quote, for those who believe in democracy and freedom, especially for women, these are bitter events. Mr. President, you can stand up there all you want and talk about how no one is upset with the mess that you've made, but everybody can see what is happening here. America is in a retreat of political convenience that this White House is desperately hoping will just go away. Joe Biden shuffles out for these public appearances and then is squirreled away back to Delaware or the White House residence. He is one of the most managed of any president in my lifetime. He was going to go right back on vacation again today. He's been to Delaware 19 times since he took office, but he decided to cancel after the criticism. You know, a real leader would be out in front every day, answering questions every day about the crisis at hand, not trying to deflect back to COVID, as Biden did earlier this week, picking a fight with states over forced masking our children. Over the last year and a half, Democrats have used the pandemic for political purposes to drive their left-wing agenda. And in the case of Afghanistan, now they're hoping to deflect from their weakness and lack of preparation. They end this week still in disbelief, not that Afghanistan fell so fast, but that the public and the media broke its focus from the waning pandemic enough to actually care about it. Right now, the White House continues to search for a strategy that leaves the rest of us in search of presidential leadership. America's out there wondering who is in charge, who is capable of dealing with the inflation, with the border, with the debt, with the crime, and now the human calamity in Afghanistan and all its national security implications. The world, and especially the Taliban, are watching, and right now, it doesn't appear that President Joe Biden can do much of anything but read his teleprompter.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.